Happy New Year, CAA football fans.
Hope all of you out there had a great holiday season. It's time to batten down the hatches, Bobby. We're headed to Frisco.
Absolutely, Tim, and we're very excited here at CAA Football. Welcome to the National Championship edition of This Week in CAA Football, everyone. I'm Bobby Broyles, along with Tim McDonald. And Tim, let's get right to it. CAA Football is back in the National Championship discussion as the Towson Tigers knocked off Eastern Washington to advance to the title game. Tim, we look back at this game, and it was an instant classic.
Yes, sir.
The win really conveys the resilience this Towson program has shown all year long. Tim, I'm going to steal your line this time. They just got it done.
Okay, we didn't talk about it in the script, but that's fine. All right, so Towson goes on the road. You know, they're up 21-0, Bob. All of a sudden, they're sitting pretty. What do the Eagles do? They come back, score 31 unanswered. Towson heads into the fourth down, 31-21 with 11:55 left. On top of that, the backup, Connor Frazier, is in under center, replacing Peter Athens. What does he do, though? He helps the team lead a 75-yard, 15-play drive, capped off by a kill him, Terrence West, highlight touchdown, back and forth, and Towson cuts the lead to 3. Now, ironically, the defense forces a great play. It's 4th and 2 for Eastern, down in inside Tigers territory. All they do is get a first down, and they win the game. Yep. Vernon Adams to Cooper Kupp, the Jerry Rice Award winner, off his fingertips. Towson has new life with 1:35 to play. Athens is injured, remember. Frazier comes in as a guy hasn't played a lot this season. What does he do, Bob? Perfect 5 of 5 on the drive, 48 yards. Also had a big pass to Brian Dowling, a guy who I said needed to have a big game, Bob.
You did.
What does Frazier do? Scores the game winner with 17 seconds left from 1 yard out. An unbelievable win with seconds to spare, Bob. What a win for this program and how far it's come.
Well, Towson will now make the trip to Frisco for the national championship game to take on a program and two-time defending champs, the North Dakota State Bison, that is too familiar with this stage. The Bison make their return after defeating New Hampshire in the Fargo Dome. Tim, you were there, and you have to tip your hat off to Sean McDonald and the Wildcats for not only a great season, but a fantastic playoff run as well.
You know, it was a fantastic play run. You got the sense after that game, you know, first quarter, it was close. New Hampshire's battling. Steven Timms picks off a Brock Jensen pass. You know, New Hampshire forces a fumble, doesn't get points. Eventually, I think the physicality and the experience of North Dakota State just took over. New Hampshire was a little bit overwhelmed in that game, especially just couldn't get the ball moving on offense. You know, though, you get the sense that Coach McDonald and this Wildcat team, they made the next step. They made that semifinal, something that they hadn't done in program history. And it's really, you know, they had great wins at Southeastern Louisiana, at Maine, beat Maine twice. A great season. I think you tip your hat to the program for making that next step, Bob. Now it's the next question, can you make that next bigger step? You know, New Hampshire, they're putting in lights at Cowell Stadium. It's been a great season. I think at the end of the day, it was a great learning curve, Coach McDonald was saying, for his players to learn, okay, this is the cream of the crop of the FCS. We just got beat by them, and we got humbled. This is what we can expect, and this is what we want to do. They return a lot of talent. R.J. Harris is back. Goldrich and Vallis are back. Nico Sturdy back. This team returns a lot, Bob. Great season. I think they're going to be focused heading into next year. You have to tip their hat to the Wildcats, though.
And it's amazing that this team actually began the season 1-3.
Who would have wrote that off, a semifinal run?
Congratulations again to the New Hampshire Wildcats on a remarkable 2013 season. The stage is now set, though, for the national championship as Towson takes on North Dakota State this Saturday, January the 4th at 2 o'clock on ESPN2 and Watch ESPN. Tim, looking at these two teams, they match up well when it comes to size and physicality. Let's begin on the offensive side of the football for Towson, where you kind of have a Tony Romo, Aaron Rodgers situation here with Peter Athens being questionable for the game. Nevertheless, the philosophy will likely stay the same as the Tigers will look to give the ball to Terrence West.
No clue. When in doubt, give it to T. West. But you mentioned, you know, Coach Ambrose talked this week. It looks like Peter Athens, he hurt his shoulder versus Eastern. It looks like he's going to be the guy. Apparently, he's been practicing with the ones this week. That's a good sign for Towson. Athens is a guy, this playoff alone, he's thrown for 5 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and 72%. Bob, in that first half, he threw for 2 touchdowns, played pretty well. The question is, if Frazier has to come in, we know he can do it. He proved last week. This season, he has 212 yards, 2 touchdowns. Forced to use his arm late versus Eastern Washington. He passed that test. Towson, you know, like you said, you know, interestingly enough, Coach McDonald, the New Hampshire coach, said if any team is physically fit to face North Dakota State, it's probably Towson. We've seen that Towson is one of the most physical teams. Who's the FCS single-time rushing leader this season? It's Terrence West, 2,416 yards. 40 touchdowns rushing, Bob. They're going to have to stick to West in that offensive line. Eric Pike, get behind him. This is a Bison defense that does not give up a lot of points, 11.1 per game. And they're number 2 in the nation in FCS and 247 yards per game allowed. It's not going to be a high-paced scoring affair. I don't think so. I think it's going to be a grinding, physical, watch the line of scrimmage. It's going to be a lot of hitting.
So it'll be up to that Towson running game to really set the tone for the passing game, you think, this weekend?
No, definitely.
On the defensive front, the Tigers will be going up against a mirror image of what they face every day in practice, which is a physical line for an offense that loves to run the ball and a quarterback that makes very few mistakes.
Exactly. You talk about Brock Jensen, who is the FCS all-time winning quarterback, okay? So against Eastern Washington, Towson necessarily gave up a lot of yards through the air. Didn't do too poorly against the run, only allowed 186 yards. And look at this Towson defense. I think all season long, we've talked about that they can get a little bit of insight. They face teams that have up-tempo offenses all season long. Now they're facing a North Dakota State team like them. Likes to run the clock, likes to take time off. North Dakota State, that quarterback, Brock Jensen, he's the engine that makes this team. You're going to have to make him force some mistakes. Towson has shown it can be physical against the run. I think the question is, you're going to have to stop Jensen from the big plays. We saw last week he had a 50-yard touchdown against New Hampshire. And once this Bison offense gets going, Bob, that's when they're dangerous. Because their defense forces so many 3-and-outs, their offense is just on the field for so long. They feature two 1,000-yard backs, Sam O'Jury and John Crockett, Bob. The question for Towson, in my mind, is that D. They face some pretty good teams in this playoff.
Yeah, they have.
Quarterback Michael Niebrick, Vernon Adams, Jamie Garoppolo. They face all these good quarterbacks. They're going to face another one this week. They did pretty well against those guys. Give Towson D some credit. It's going to be a tough game. You got to slow down the Bison and get your drives, but I think Towson D, they're ready for this one.
Yeah, the Towson defense was able to control two guys that were up for the Walter Payton Award.
I think, if I may add, Bob, I think the key is going to be a relentless pursuit. Everyone is going to need to tackle on that Towson D. I'm looking at Monte Gaddis, Jordan Love, Ty Smith. All those guys are going to need to be in.
Tim, it should be a fantastic game. And when you look at the complete body of work in this matchup, what will be Towson's so-called X factor that may just tip the scales in this title game?
Well, you look at this and you say, oh, could it be special teams? Could it be turnovers? Those are kind of obvious. I think the key is going to be sustaining drives. You look at this North Dakota State team versus Coastal Carolina versus Furman versus New Hampshire. They're facing teams who have high up-tempo offenses, and they play so well. I say this all the time. North Dakota State's best offense is its defense. Because that defense forces so many 3-and-outs and doesn't allow a lot of first downs, Towson is going to need to move the chains. That's going to be the key. Can Terrence West, who averages 160 yards per game, can he get going? Their defensive front and their secondary, you don't want to mess with the Bison. They've won 23 straight games for a reason and 2 national championships for a reason, Bob. The key is going to be sustaining drives. Can you get into short third-down situations? I think Rob Ambrose knows this. I think he's going to say to himself, if it's a 4th and 3 or 4th and 2, we're going to have to go for it. Points are going to be a premium. If it gets out of hand, it's going to be tough because that Bison offense loves to run the game. I think you fight the fire with the fire if you're Towson. Slow the game down. Keep the ball in your hands, have long drives, and you can stay with this team. Towson's won 12 straight games, on the road. They're used to tough environments. We know the Bison fans are going to be there, probably outdoing a lot of people there, outdoing a lot of Towson fans. Towson's going to travel too, but I think against the wall, Towson has proven, leave no doubt, Bob, that's their mantra. They can get it done. There's no question.
As we mentioned, the Championship Showdown will be available to a national audience this Saturday. This also includes the FCS National Championship Trophy presentation that will follow the game on ESPN3. As we do every week, we'll also feature links to live stats and audio and video for Saturday's game on our game day page on CAAfootball.com. And don't forget to check back with us on Sunday when we bring you our weekly rundown. Our CAA Football crew will be heading down to Frisco on Thursday to cover all of this week's events. Tim, what can our fans expect on social media this week?
Bob, we'll be all over that. There's several ways that you can follow all the festivities leading up to Saturday's action. Follow us on Twitter at CAA Football using our official CAAFB hashtag, and on Facebook at facebook.com/CAA Football. We love responding to tweets or comments, so don't hesitate when it comes to hitting us up. You can also get an inside look at the league on Instagram by searching CAA Football, and on our everyday Saturday official blog, caafootball.wordpress.com.
CAA.TV will also be busy with plenty of coverage from practice to press conferences to anything else that may come up during our trip to Frisco. Tim, like I said earlier, CAA Football is back in the national championship game. Now it's time to bring the title home.
I can't wait, BB. I'm looking forward to an awesome game. And let's be hoping that we'll be celebrating with some confetti with the Tigers on Saturday.
Mine's not working. It's like New Year's all over again. For Tim McDonald, I'm Bobby Broyles. We've got to catch our flight. We'll see you in Frisco.
Let's go, baby.
You coming?